Welcome to the new episode of All That Jazz. I'm your host, Matyash, and I have with me a very special guest, Adam Broomfield-Strawn. Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Good pronunciation on the name.
Aye, thank you. Thank you. All the
Appreciate
way.
that.
You're all the way from England, and I'm in Scotland. So we're both in Britain.
We are bookending this country, my friend.
Aye, and you were talking about just before we got on that your last name is actually very rare because I guess it's a combination of two last names, isn't it?
Yeah. What it was when I was married, before we got married, my ex-wife has one sister who's just not going to have children, and I didn't want her giving up her last name and taking mine. So we said, look, we'll just join them together. And we went Strawn, Broomfield-Strawn, and hers sounded better. So there's 4 Broomfield-Strawns in the world. So that's me, my ex-wife, our 2 children. That's it.
Oh, wow. I love that when there's something. I think my last name in real life is kind of rare as well, but not as rare as yours. I think maybe I should change it to something exotic and be like something like show business.
You can change it.
You know what? Do you know the old comedian? Because you're a man of many talents. I forgot to mention, like Adam is a man of many talents. He's now an actor, a stand-up comedian, and a life coach, and probably other things as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he got into healing arts as well.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
There was a stand-up comedian like of the old golden era, I would call it, and his name was like very Jewish, and he changed it to George Burns.
Oh yeah,
because that was showbiz, you know.
Yeah. A lot of people. There's so many people whose real names. See, the strange thing is, some people change their name, and you go, "Oh, I didn't know that was your real name." But back in the golden era, there was a singer called Engelbert Humperdinck.
Right.
And now that's a weird second name, isn't it? Humperdinck. Engelbert, which is a strange first name. Engelbert Humperdinck. He actually changed his name to Engelbert Humperdinck. And I can't remember what his original birth name was, but to change your name to Engelbert Humperdinck.
Wow. I mean, who was his agent? Where did he get his advice? I don't get it.
I have no idea. He was very successful. If you ask people of my parents' age who Engelbert Humperdinck is, they will know him. Oh, he was incredibly successful.
Maybe back in was this like a Victorian era? No, it wasn't Victorian era. It was kind of the end of it.
I am not that old. How rude.
I mean, all right. I'm my
1960s, 1970s.
Yeah, 60s. That was a great time. 1960s.
Yeah, 60s, 70s, and the best music was in the 80s, without a shadow of a doubt.
So, for full disclosure, I have worked with Adam he worked with me more accurately, and from the role of life coach, and you've been very helpful in that capacity, especially in regards to getting me on the bike. That was really useful. And so how did you get in the coaching arts? That's a really interesting career, a move.
Oh, the coaching arts.
Yes,
I like it described like that. Because everybody has their own style. That's what I like about it. If very often people have a coach and they go, I don't like life coaching. Yeah. It's like, no, you didn't like that life coach.
Right.
We're all different. I got into it because when you're an actor, and I completely reset my life back in 2015, you basically spend all of your time juggling 3 or 4 jobs at once. And a friend of mine had an NLP company, still does. So he had an NLP company, and NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, which is all about how our mind works as a computer, which it basically is and how we can reprogram it. So I did an NLP course. Turned out I was actually just something I was naturally very good at. And then I didn't really do anything with it. And then when lockdown hit, or just before lockdown, actually, I was like, do you know what? I could do that alongside the jobs that I was doing. And I then did more courses, and because I realized that the one thing that I'm very good at is adapting and changing my mindset, which you need to be if you have mental health issues and things. It was an amalgamation of circumstance and necessity that
Did you
kind
have
of
mental health issues?
it
as well?
led in that direction. Well, I have undiagnosed BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. So
Oh, wow.
it's similar. Yeah, it's similar.
Describe it to people that don't know what it is.
It's very similar to bipolar. Another thing is I'm very, very open about it as well, because mental health is the same as physical health.
Yes.
So
even more important, I think.
Exactly. You are constantly in your head.
Yes.
And you can't just, it's not like a broken arm. You can't just put a plaster cast around it and wait a while.
Right.
BPD is similar to bipolar, except it is not, I would say it's not as extreme in terms of with bipolar, you can have an incredible high period where you're really, really just everything's amazing. And then you have the alternate crash where just incredible depression kicks in. BPD isn't quite as severe as that, but you will have periods where when you're attuned to it, you go, okay, you know, the waves aren't as severe, but they may be a little bit, like some people it's a little bit longer and a little bit shorter, but there'll be certain periods where you go, okay, I can feel that I'm in this phase, and it can be affected by the seasons as well. So you have to learn to deal with that. But in a way, it's a blessing, because a lot of people have mental health issues that they're simply not aware of.
Yeah, I think a person that really did recently a lot for mental health was Tyson Fury, a heavyweight boxing champion from Manchester, and he is just amazing. He was very open about it, and seemed like he overcame his demons. Seems like people like that are even more successful, that have overcome a lot of adversity.
Yeah, there is a lot to be said about adversity, and a lot of the things that I do with clients is what we call reframing, which is changing the way that you look at things. And if you can look at adversity as, well, one, and I did this on a just set up a YouTube channel as well.
Nice.
If you look at, I'm doing something else now. I did something else. But if you can look at, I do one every Monday. It's called Mun Hit Wonders. And I was talking about this the other day, and I said, look, if you are listening or watching this right now, you have a 100% success rate at surviving. So it doesn't matter how bad everything's been, you have survived, which means you can survive. And it is only through adversity and surviving that adversity that we become stronger. You only get bigger at the gym or stronger at the gym by putting more and more weight on that bar. And it's very similar, because without adversity, you can't have life without adversity. Simple as that. But if you can change the way that you look at it, and what you have succeeded at, and what you have been capable of, and ergo what you are capable of, then it doesn't mean that you're not going to get down and depressed and upset and cry, because even I still do. But it means that you are able to keep that in the forefront of your mind, and you go, it won't always be like this.
Right.
And I will get through this. This too shall pass is a very, very good mantra to keep in your mind, because everything passes, and that's good times and bad. Right.
It's like sometimes all you can do is wait and until the adversity passes. But it seems like you have, because some people with life, they grow more bitter. There's a quote I really love that some people age like fine wine and others turn into vinegar. Thomas
Yeah, I hadn't
Sowell.
heard that before, but yeah.
And that's just amazing. And it sounds like you have grown through adversity and actually started doing more things and challenging yourself in more different ways. So to provide more service to the world even than before.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons, again, going back to your previous question about how I got into life coaching, one of the reasons I got into life coaching, and I am focusing heavily now on career direction, sense of purpose and meaning. And one of the reasons that I did that is when you reset your life at 42 and you declare bankruptcy, you get divorced, you move to a completely different city and retrain to be an actor, it's not your common thing. Trying to find someone who has completely reset their life to get advice from is incredibly difficult. I couldn't find anyone. And what I realized through the years of training in NLP and reframing and various other things, I realized that actually the reason that I've been through and I'm still going through the transition period and the troubles and struggles that I am is so that I can be that person that I need to other people.
Right.
Because if you're looking for someone for guidance and you genuinely cannot find that person, and it's great that celebrities talk about their struggles when they were a new actor, and you can listen to Robert Downey Jr. or some other actor talking about how they were sleeping in a car and this, that, and the other, but you can't talk directly to those people and go,
yes, right.
How did you? And in the course of going through what you're going through, if you are looking for a person for guidance, advice, and support, and you can't find that person, well, maybe you have to become that person, and that is your purpose. And very often we go through things, and it's only in retrospect that we realize what the meaning of that was. But everything has meaning. It's just sometimes you might not discover that until 5-10 years later, or never. You might never discover it.
Yeah, it seems like life is sometimes so weird, and there's things that happen that bring people to their knees. But I think sometimes, I think it's all for a purpose. It's like, are you a spiritual man? Are you a religious man? Like, do you see it more like that as well?
I'll be honest, I've not darted, but I have always been spiritual. I was born to Christian parents, but I never really bought into the God theory.
I love that you call it the God theory.
Well, it's if it's almost theory or thesis, depending on what direction you're coming from. But I have recently come back to the Christian faith, and I was discussing this. Even if you're not Christian and you don't believe in God, you can listen to say the Bible in a Year podcast, which I listen to, or you can read a book by, my favorite is Nicky Gumbels, who specifically set out to disprove Christianity because he was a training lawyer. He specifically set out to disprove Christianity, and the more he set out to disprove it from the viewpoint of a lawyer, the more he realized that he couldn't disprove it. And I like that.
Ooh, is that movie made after him? His because I saw a movie. It was a similar story. He was a journalist, and then he was trying to disprove it. Maybe it's not the same person, but it seems like a lot of people have gone through that process.
Yeah, and I kind of like that. It's similar. It's similar to when people set out to disprove veganism, and then they realize, crap, this is all true. But even if you're not Christian, you don't want to be Christian. there is a lot to learn from the Bible's teachings. Even if you go, okay, do you know what? I'm just going to say there isn't a God, and I'm just going to listen to this story. There is still a lot to learn from it, and for me, it still works. Now, I do believe in God, but even if I didn't, there is a lot of support and wisdom in the Bible that anyone can take, and I like that, because a lot of the Bible is metaphor. So you listen to stories that are still relevant today. You listen to stories of people fighting with each other over disagreements, and it's all about coming together and communicating and seeing things from the other person's point of view, and it's very relevant. So, in a long-winded way of answering your very short question, yes, I am Christian.
Do you mind answering like which flavor, which denomination? Because there's a lot of different.
There are no particular flavor. Now, I actually used to teach Sunday school with my ex-wife.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's so we taught Sunday school for about 3 years, because I believe, again, even if they're not Christian, there's no downside to bringing children up believing in God, because it's basically a set of rules that pretty much every religion adheres to. And we did that for quite a while, and that was Church of England. Now, I'm not a fan of the Church of England hymns. I find them sort of quite depressing and worries me. Sorry, God, we're all very, very bad people. Now, if you get me into a church like the one in what was the Whoopi Goldberg film where she was a Sister Act.
Right. It's more like a Baptist style, like more like
just Baptist, or I'm trying to find a church at the moment, and I'm trying to find what they call a charismatic church,
right?
I believe, or a New Life church, something a little bit more cool and modern and relevant to me. There were some amazing bands out there as well, where they're singing Christian music, but it does not sound like Christian music at all. I'm trying to think of one, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
You know what's interesting is that when sometimes when people tell you things and absolutely that is true, like you just get a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I knew this girl, this Scottish girl, one time, and she was going through some personal trouble. But she told me that in the past few months, I prayed so much, and now. And then things got together with for her, and she found a boyfriend. Now she has a kid and all that. So, which is what she wanted. But she prayed. I think she prayed enormously. So I know you're a life coach, but this is very interesting. How useful do you think prayer is for you or for other people if they really employ it?
I think, and again, when you look at prayer, it's very similar to meditation. It's very similar to positive thinking. It's very similar to a mantra. I mean, they're very similar. So for me, when you're praying, you're saying sorry for things that you've done. Well, if you don't believe in God, then it's like, okay, well, I'm forgiving myself. And a lot of moving forward in your life is about forgiving yourself and realizing that we all make mistakes, and who you were in the past is not who you are now. That's gone.
Right.
And then you pray for things that you want and what you need. A lot of it is praying for other people. Well, again, there's no downside for wanting the best for other people, especially if they say love thy enemy. Well, if you're wanting the best for someone, maybe an ex-partner who you split up with and you still have negative feelings for, the more you pray for them and the well-being for them, the more you're forgiving them and letting that negative stuff go. And I'm going to do something quite soon. about how we carry around negative emotions for other people. Like we're walking around like they've shit on our head, and we're walking around with their shit on our head for the rest of our life.
It's true.
Going, can you see what this person did? Look at what this person did. And it's like, that person's gone. You're walking around with their shit on your head, and all it's doing is stinking up your life. And you have to get that shit. You have to take that shit off your head and throw it away. But all the time you're walking around with negative feelings that you can't, there's nothing you can do about it. The other person doesn't care. But you're just walking around with somebody else's shit on your head, pointing at it, going, look at what this person did.
It's funny you say that, because I had before I left Slovenia to go back to Scotland, I had some personal issues with 2 family members, and still do, and I feel like it's still affected me in some way. So and I do know that the key is forgiveness, but the key is actually to do it. It's not just, there's one thing if you know in theory, but you're not applying it. It doesn't mean anything if you're not actually doing it, if you're not being it, right?
Yeah. Well, if people say I can forgive but I can't forget, it's like, well, then you can't forgive.
But isn't that technically true? You don't forget the details, right? Or
no,
it
but
depends how they mean it, I guess.
Well, very often we will say, okay, well, I forgive you, and the other person's like, oh, great, thank you. But then all the time you're remembering it.
Oh, yes.
You're thinking about it, because people say, I forgive you, and then carry on walking around with that. It's like, no, you have to forgive them, and then literally go, didn't happen, forget it, and literally just put it out. And it doesn't mean if somebody said, can you tell me what happened, you wouldn't be able to, but it literally just means you've made a conscious decision to forget it and not think about it, and just let that stuff go. I mean, having been through divorce and everything, it's people make that process a hell of a lot harder than it is, because they're literally not willing to forgive.
Oh yeah.
Whereas for me, I literally put my hands up and just gone, do you know what? I'm just going to say that everything was my fault. I'm just going to say everything, but not in a negative way, not in a negative, it was all my fault, the marriage ended, but it's literally more in a way of just like going, do you know what? Whatever you want to say was the reason for that breakup, I'm fine with. She was saying, oh, we broke up because it turned out he was on a register with something ridiculous like that. Yeah, fine. But if it's just, you can literally just go, whatever. Fine, just let people believe what they want.
Wow, I don't think I have that skill, actually. That's amazing.
It's well, when you think about it, if you're just constantly thinking about what the other person did and blaming them for everything, you're just carrying around. It's like that thing where they're saying, it's like drinking poison and hoping the other person gets sick. Because the other person is probably not thinking about you as much as you think they are. And if they are, there's nothing that you can do. What another person thinks about you, I mean, people will think things about you when they don't even know you. Celebrities get this all the time. And one of the best things that I heard a celebrity, I can't remember who, but one of the best things I heard a celebrity say was, well, people can think whatever they want about me,
right,
and be wrong, and I'm absolutely fine with that. Absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think it's that's healthy, actually, that you're not that you're not dependent on approval from the outside, because you have inner approval, and you don't particularly care, unless it's like valid or something that somebody close to you that you have to take into consideration, let's say.
Yeah, if it's somebody that's close, we spend so much time thinking about what people are thinking about us and saying about us, without really realizing that everybody else is thinking about themselves and thinking exactly the same thing. What are other people? But generally, people don't think about you. They're not thinking about you as much as you think they're thinking about you. Honestly.
Yeah. Most people think about 80% about themselves.
Oh, most people think about what they're having for dinner.
Yeah.
And what they're going to do at the weekend. Just normal stuff like that. Honestly, it's very egocentric to think, oh my God, I bet this person's thinking this about me. I bet this person's thinking that about me. It's like, you know what? Then they're not. They're probably wondering, ridiculous stuff. Why does the word fridge have a D in it, but refrigerator doesn't? Just stupid stuff.
I was when I was a teenager and all that stuff, I was overthinking, and I had I probably, if somebody diagnosed me, maybe I had social anxiety. And the thing that about it was I was constantly thinking, oh, these people are judging me, these people are that. But I think it stemmed from my own fears and all that. I was judging myself constantly, like if I did something wrong and all that. And I think for that kind of thing, going back to coaching, I think coaching is so extremely valuable. I think everybody would benefit from having a coach or a mentor, because in today's world, people are lacking that. Like sometimes people don't have fathers, or people don't have like those kind of mentors in their life. So life coaching for me is just like, it's been amazing. I've had so many different life coaches, but I've learned something from everyone, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to get another person's perspective. Now, the difference, I suppose, between talking to a life coach and talking to a close friend is a close friend is always going to be biased, or a family member is always going to be biased.
Right.
They might not tell you the truth, or they might not tell you something that you don't want to hear. With a life coach being completely unbiased, they will literally see things, and it is a conscious thing from a life coach's point of view. The hardest thing to learn as a life coach is to not bring your own perspective and your own things into a situation or person's situation. But a life coach will always be unbiased and just say, okay, why do you think that other person may be acting that way? And we use tools like perceptual positions, where we get you to put yourself literally in the place of the other person and think and speak as the other person, and just having another perspective on things.
Yeah.
Is sometimes people just need to talk out loud, and as they're talking, they're hearing what they're saying, and because they can hear it externally rather than internally, that enables their brain to reprocess that in another way and go, oh, okay, right, I can work with this, because they're hearing themselves.
Yeah.
So and it's just talking.
Yeah, it's like and also I think journalism, like not journalism, journaling can also help. But like as you're telling your stuff to another person, I think the way it comes across, and if you're honest with yourself and honest with the other person, I think that can help tremendously, because you will then notice things, and then other people, like you, when you hear people talk in the coaching sessions, you will pick up on things that they're not even aware of. So that's so useful, to get that kind of perspective, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just hearing, because you pick up on things and you work out, you can notice everyone works differently, though. We all use different languages and different context. And, for one person, journaling is great if you're the type of person that will sit down and write. If you're not the type of person that will sit down and write, because everyone's different, then journaling might not work for you. The thing that I found with life coaching is there's no one size fits all method. You have to listen and observe people's operating models,
Right.
and then and you have to communicate with that person on their operating model. So if you were saying, I see it this way, and I look at, and I'm, the way that I view things, I get, great, okay, you're a very visual person. Whereas if it was, everyone operates on a different operating model, and just picking up on that and being able to unpick maybe the hidden meaning behind that, and dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah. And
get under the surface.
There's something that can help everybody. I think people were, like you said, there's not a universal thing that can help people, but there is, especially in coaching, because it's so specific, so personal, and you might jive more with the because there's also personality. So if you have a coach that maybe reminds you of somebody in your life that you don't like, or somebody that you fear, maybe that's the reason why it doesn't work. So it's so personal. And also I think what really I liked in your sessions was that the sense of goodwill that you approach it with just an inquisitive and open and helpful outlook. It's so refreshing to have that in your life, because people sometimes, when they're listening to your story, they're not so like they kind of want you to shut up and just get on with their day, basically,
Yeah. Very often very often you'll be having a conversation, and I'm still guilty of it myself. Very often people aren't really listening to what you're saying. What they're actually doing is listening to you talk and waiting for a gap so they can say what they've been thinking about for the last 5 minutes. Literally just not necessarily listening to what you're saying. They're just waiting for an opportunity for themselves to talk. And the thing that I really do like about coaching is just sitting back and just letting someone talk.
Yeah. And then see what they say. Like I might go on for 5-10 minutes, and then you come back with your observations, and it's kind of like, it's not therapy, but it's something that I think therapists as well do. They just listen, and then they're like, well, so you're upset with your mother, and then and then you continue on, and it's a very
you went straight for the Freudian there, didn't you? You went straight in with the Freud.
Yes.
Straight in with the Freud. The only other thing you could have said is, "Oh, what is your relationship with your father?"
Yeah. What does the cigar symbolize, do you think, in your dream?
Yes.
He had a lot of like sexual connotations in his. I don't know if it's all accurate, but I think obviously he was a genius for bringing psychology forward. And but anyway, since we're talking about this, I would love to try Freudian psychoanalysis, like really old school, and just like go on the couch and all that. I think it'd be so fascinating. I think a lot of fears would come up, though. Might F me up for a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. Well, that is the thing that I love about life coaching, as opposed to say traditional psychotherapy or whatever it is you think about. I mean, the classic laying down on a couch, and then the buzzer goes off and it's like, okay, our time's up, that'll be $200 and I'll see you next week. The thing that I don't like about that side of things is, if you're constantly looking at the past and rehashing the past and what the past meant, it's like you can't imagine trying to drive along a motorway towards the destination that you want to get to, but you're spending all the time looking in the rear view mirror about what did that crash mean, and why did that happen, and why did that person pull into that lane, and why did I pull into that? If you're constantly looking backwards, you can't move forwards. And to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars for years and years and years to talk to someone to find the meaning about what happened. Personally, I'm like, the past is the past. Every 7 years, every single cell in your body is regenerated. So who you were 7 years ago physically is not who you are now. So whatever happened to you, gone. It's completely gone. Time is a relative. It's completely gone. Let's look forwards. And the thing that I always set out with my sessions is my job is to make myself redundant. My job is to put myself out of a job.
Wow.
You
I
know?
love that attitude, because you're not like, because some people are in it for, have as many sessions as they possibly can. I think those are bad coaches, probably, because they're not looking for, but I think I do disagree slightly. I think sometimes it's useful, especially if there's past trauma and stuff like that. I think counseling and probably psychoanalysis, and maybe there's tons of modalities that can do it. But also, as we talked about spiritually as well, that has to do with the past. If you're dragging it with you constantly, the resentment that happened 20 years ago, oh man, that's bad news. It's gonna.
I mean, the thing with, especially with my coach, I'm very forward thinking, and I will even have a client change their language. So I had a client recently, I was talking, and she was saying, I can't do this. And the words "I can't" or derivatives thereof came up a lot. And at the end of our session, I said, okay, I'm going to write some notes and observations and give you some between coaching assignments, for want of a better word. But I said to her, the one thing that I want you to do that I don't need to write down, because I know that you'll do it, is rather than say I can't, say I'm learning how to, or I'm getting better at. Just because if you say I can't is very staccato, it's very final, it's very I can't, bang, that's it.
How about I can't yet? I
can't yet is it's better, but it still contains the negative of I can't.
Right.
And I try and I will even say this to my children. If they use a negative, I'll say, okay, what's the positive of that? What's the opposite of that? So I will say, I'm learning how to, I'm improving at, I'm getting better at, whatever. Change it. I can't yet is definitely better than I can't, but it still contains that negative of can't, and the brain will focus on a negative.
Right.
So that's why, there's no such word as can't. It's like, oh, okay, I cannot, fine. If you want to be pedantic, but always be forward thinking. The thing that I will do with relation to what we were just saying about therapy and looking in the past, yes, sometimes you need to look at the past, because you need to look at what is the root of this, because we carry things forwards from our childhood. So if somebody is struggling and has always struggled with their weight and their eating, or their body image or something, well, when we're children, parents and other adults and friends say things with the best intentions that don't necessarily benefit us in the long term, and we can believe something we were told when we were a child and still believe it 40 years later. Now,
yes,
if we look back and go, where is the source of this? Where has this come from? Then yes, we can look back at that, but then we immediately go, right, how can we move forward? So we look back, if we're using, say, timeline therapy, we'll look back at something, and then we will get the adult now to go back to that child and tell them what they now know, give that child the present and future wisdom, which means we can then change that thought and that belief that we had when we were a child, which breaks that chain, because we're now working from a place of, and this is where I am now, and my childhood me now believes. So you can go back, you can literally, and again, I did this on One Hit Wonders. I used the song "If I Could Turn Back Time." We can time travel. We can change history our history, because our history is literally just our thoughts of what happened in the
Right.
past. And you can go back and change that, but then you have to look forwards. You can't go back and keep going back.
Yeah.
You can't keep on going back. Just, don't keep going to the circus and complaining about clowns. It's like, do you know what? Just stop going to the fucking circus,
I had a guest on. She was a PhD in psychology, and she said my memories about the past change as the way we think about it. So the memory itself is malleable. So if you have a positive attitude about it and not attached to the emotional trauma, and you let it go, then you can recontextualize it in a positive way and be like, how can I learn from this? And it sounds like that's the gist of your coaching. You're looking at, well, okay, this happened, so how can I learn from this? How can I move forward? How can I move myself into action and go forwards from this?
Yeah. It's fine to go back to the past if it's going to serve us, but constantly going back to the past and trying to find the meaning. You know what? Just life happens, things happen, shit happens, and sometimes sometimes you're not going to know the meaning for that. Sometimes you will never know why that relationship didn't work and why you didn't get that job, and it's like, do you know what? We don't have the right. Nobody's given us the right to know the answer of why anything happened.
Oh yeah, I'll ask you this. I didn't expect to ask you this, but I will. What's your view on free will versus predetermination? Since we're talking kind of like about this.
Free will versus predetermination. Elaborate. How do you? In what?
Well, some believe that there's things that are fated, and you're meant to be go into this position. Are you meant to find this person? Are you meant to marry this person? Are you meant to meet this somebody? Like it's fated, and sometimes it seems that way in life, but it's hard to tell. Like, is there so many coincidences that sometimes happen in life, but then also that's dependent on your choices. But was those choices predetermined or not? So it's like almost like a chicken and egg argument. Like what is going on,
It's I kind of, the way that I see it is, whatever happens in your life was meant to happen, because if it wasn't meant to happen, it wouldn't have happened.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
If something happens, you go, that wasn't meant to happen. If it wasn't meant to happen, it wouldn't have happened. Now, we've got free will and predetermination. Well, we are predetermined to get somewhere. We just don't know what it is, but whatever we do and wherever we end up, that's where we were meant to go. Now, a lot of people spend their life drifting through life like they've just jumped in a boat, pushed off the shore with no map and just gone, okay, let's see where life takes me. Well, that's free will, but wherever you end up, it is predetermined. I mean, life can very much be like, you could be like, it's like the water in a river. It's like that river is going in a certain direction. But if somebody comes along and scoops up a part of that water, well, that small body of water that was in the river and is now in a cup and is going to end up in somebody's fish tank. Well, it was predetermined to end up in that fish tank.
Oh, but, okay. So you're making
the river is the river is predetermined. The water in the river is predetermined to go to a sea or wherever it's going. But that doesn't mean that somebody's not going to come along and scoop up a bit of that water, and then that bit of water is going to go somewhere else. It's like, we don't know. We simply don't know. The only thing that we can do is decide where we want to be and make best plans to enable us to get there. And that's the biggest thing that people, I don't want to say mistake, but it's the biggest thing that people don't do, is they don't work out what is necessary for them to live a purposeful, happy and satisfied life, and then work out what they need to do to get that, and then set a map for how to at least push themselves off in that direction. We enter life very often, we just go, I don't know. I mean, I did it. I left school with 3 GCSEs and just went, I don't know what I want to do for a living. I haven't done anything yet. And spent years, absolutely years, trying this, trying that, going through loads of shit, doing jobs that I liked, doing jobs that I absolutely hated, having a mental breakdown, and, you know, ended up in a job where I was spending tens of thousands buying things to make me happy, because the job that I was doing every day made me thoroughly miserable. But if somebody said to me at an early age, and this is never too late to change your life, but if you can, the earlier you can set it up, the better. If somebody had said to me at the age of 12 or 13, let's sit down and really look at what drives you, what motivates you, what type of people you like to be with, what type of things you like to do, and then work out from there, these are the things that you are most likely to be happy doing for the rest of your life, then I probably would have become an actor at the age of, 12, 13, 14, because I would have gone, oh my God, I like entertaining people. I like being with people. I like pretending. What child doesn't? All of that, but nobody did that. So to then decide and realize that at the age of 42, it's like, come on, I've wasted 26 years doing all of this shit. I haven't wasted it because,
Right. So you were like predetermined basically to become an actor. You believe that?
I was predetermined to go down the acting route. One of the things that I realized that makes us, there's a thing called talent stacking, which is looking at the skills and traits that you have, what you're naturally good at, and how you can put them together that make you very unique in what you do. Now it was the guy called Scott Adams, who was he founded, it's not the word that I'm looking for, damn you brain, but he made the Dilbert comics. They're very big in America.
Oh yeah. I like that guy. Yeah, he does political commentary as well. He's really cool. Yeah.
Well, he realized, because he's failed at so many things, and he wrote a book called How to Fail at Almost Anything and Still Win Big. And he talks about talent stack, and he says, I'm not the best cartoonist. I'm not the best public speaker. I'm not the best writer. I'm not the best comedian, but I'm the best at writing a comic strip and drawing and narrating and all of the things that he does. He's like, I am proficient in all of those. Put those 3 skills together. And that's how he realized that if you can get 2 or 3 of your best skills, your best talents, your best natural abilities, and put them together, you can be. So for me, I did stand-up comedy for 8-9 years, and I will go back to it. I did public speaking and won awards in public speaking. I've done acting and presenting. I've also done the corporate side, so I understand business. I've done NLP and life coaching, so I understand people. All of these things mean that probably at some stage I will be on television, doing something on television, which will be humorous, entertaining, educational, and it will look good because it's got me in it. And I've done modeling and I look after myself. And there's just all of these different elements are going to lead me to somewhere that I don't know what that is yet.
Right. But you have the confidence that that doing the things that you do will keep moving forward. Will get you to a place where you want to be. Will get you to doing things that you love. And I think that's really important, doing something that you love versus like, because so many people go to work and they hate it, they're miserable, and they don't take action in changing it as well. They like moan about it, but they don't change, they don't put it into action.
It's because it's always, we're so lazy as people. Our brain as a computer wants to do everything as efficiently as possible. This is
Right.
why we moan about stuff and then continue to do it, because our brain just goes, look, just wake up, don't get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. It's just because it all comes from prehistoric times. It's easier to fight to it's easier to make an excuse than it is to make a change. And our brain doesn't like doing new things and make it, because it expends energy. It puts us in possible danger. Our brain will go, well, why go out of the cave and turn right? We've always turned left. If you turn right, there might be a tiger there. But we know if we turn left, there's a bush and there's a pond.
Yeah.
So don't go that way. I don't know what's there. So doing something new petrifies people. And very often that is enough to make you, corporate capitalistic society absolutely loves that. They love the fact that we don't like change. So they can feed us the same old bullshit year after year after year. And we'll just go. This is why societies vote for the same party over and over and over again and consistently moan about them.
Yeah.
Because the thought of another party being in charge is like, oh, better the devil,
Yeah, maybe it's that. And also I have a theory that there, as a culture, there is a habit, a momentum, and usually it takes a mass movement, so a lot of minds are changed in order for that train track where society is going, for it to change, because it's based on interest and the cultural flow at the time. And that, like I said, it has a momentum. But if that momentum shifts and there's a different, then it will start flowing there. But it usually takes a lot for that to happen. So
to change anything, you can change your own direction. But the problem is, if you're the first person to do something, we've seen this through medical breakthroughs and scientific breakthroughs over the years, where the people that came up with these theories about, I can't remember who it was that first came up with the theory about the heart pumping the blood around the body and oxygenating it via the lungs and all of this. But the person who discovered that when he first expressed his thesis was absolutely berated, and everyone thought, and that happens time and time and time and time again. And then at some stage you go, oh my God, can you believe we ever thought that? Because society as a whole, we want to fit in. We don't want to stand out. And it's easier to believe what everybody else believes. There was a time when everyone believed that smoking while you were pregnant and smoking was healthy. We look at that now and just go, are you crazy? But if enough people, making change is always, and nobody wants to be that one person to say, actually, I don't think this is right.
Right. Yeah. And it's especially difficult. When you have a group think, like back, even Galileo, saying that the Earth is not the center of the universe, and that it's round and all that, but then again, you still have people believing the flat Earth theory. I have good friends, so there is that as well. So that there are the mavericks on every side. But you know what, as a philosopher, Eric Hoffer said, history is made by examples. Somebody started it. So I think I would encourage everybody, if there's something is good, and because some people want to change the world, but actually you have to always look at the effects. If what you're doing, you have good intentions, and what you're doing is actually producing different results, then your good intentions, you should really look at that, because I strongly believe that in the realm of politics, intention doesn't matter. Result is paramount. So if your policies are producing something that is counterproductive, you should really look at that, instead of saying we need more of A, because A is not working. So you should consider that.
Oh yeah, that's the thing with politics. We know politicians lie, and they will say whatever they have to say to get themselves into the position that they want to be. That politicians don't say things politicians don't say things for the people, they say things for themselves. And we know that. I mean, we voted in Mr. Johnson off the back of just incredible amount of lies, some of them written on the side of a great big bus. And we wanted to believe that. Now that's a lot of that isn't true. The thing that we can do, each of us as an individual, considering that the center of the universe is us. Everyone is the center of their own universe, because the world is how we see it from our perspective. So everyone is the center. So in an essence, you can say each of us is God, because we look at the world, and the world as we see it is our world. It is our universe. We are the center. Now it's fine saying I want to change the world, but the only thing that we can really change, and the first place that we need to start from, is us. So it's like, great, you can find it's very easy to point the finger and say these people should be doing this, these people should be doing that. But I look at it and just go, no, you can't change what other people are doing. You can promote something, and you can say something, and you can urge them, and you can make laws and everything, but laws don't stop people from doing things. People still kill, people still murder, people still do things that are against the law.
Yeah.
Just because there's a law, that doesn't mean, there is, and that's where free will comes in. But you can predetermine where you want to go and change yourself. So the first thing that you have to do is look and go, what am I doing? Because I heard somebody say, do you know what, I would be vegan, but the government need to make meat illegal or something like that. And I just go, well, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you don't. If you want to be vegan, be vegan. Just stop. If you don't support that, you can stop doing it. Yeah, but my family. Okay, let your family do what they're doing, but you can still. You are the universe.
Let's say you're okay. Since veganism is very important to me, by the way, full disclosure, I'm not vegan. So yeah, but I also, a lot of my audience, I assume, are not vegan. So if you had 3 minutes to make a pitch on why somebody should become vegan, or what would you say? Like,
why should somebody become vegan?
Yeah, give me a best elevator pitch.
Do you know what? Why should somebody become vegan? I could do that in about 3 seconds flat, because animal abuse is wrong.
Okay.
That's it. That's literally it. But people try and elaborate and say, oh, but we should eat this, and we've been doing this, and they come up with these amazing reasons and excuses, and look at history, and we need animals, and animals are here, and the bottom line of it, the very bottom line of it is animal abuse wrong? And I have yet to ask that question to somebody and have them say no. Because the bottom line of it is, yes, it is. And there is absolutely no way that we get the food that we eat, because we're not living on a desert island, and we're not living in Alaska where there aren't carrots, and we're not, people will do this thing. They say, yeah, but what if you were living here, and what about these people? And it's like, no, I'm talking about you in a Western society who can go to the shop and buy something made of plants instead of something made from the flesh of a dead animal. And it's like, you cannot get those products without an animal being abused. And even if it lives an amazing, happy life, and you go, well, I've looked after it and I treated it like my child. I mean, when people say that, that's hilarious. When farmers will say that, I treat them like my family. Really? You really? Then you, sir, should be in prison. You cannot get an
why
animal.
should they be in prison? Well, if they treat the animals kindly. Or
Yeah,
maybe but it's harder to kill. I will grant you that it's harder to kill an animal that you've named than is your pet. That's extremely difficult, actually. Because
well, basically, there's only one way of getting milk, and that is by making a cow pregnant. And trust me, there isn't a case of let's just wheel in a Randy Bull and let them at it. That's not how they do it. They stick an electrified dildo up a bull's ass, give it an electric shock up its ass, and make it ejaculate against its will. So the bull's not having a good time. And then when the cow there's only one reason a mammal produces milk. It's had a baby. Well, they steal that baby every single year for 7 years on average on the trot, and then shoot the baby in the head if it's a boy. And if it's a girl, they will repeatedly rape that and carry on with the cycle. Trust me, there's no... People believe about the animal agriculture industry what the agriculture industry wants them to believe by very, very clever PR and marketing with happy cows and happy chickens. And the truth of it is, nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. They did the same about smoking. I mean, Cancer Research UK have put on their website not too long ago that certain processed meats do cause cancer, and not possibly and not maybe, absolutely positively do cause cancer.
Right.
And the scientific evidence of dairy is exactly the same. The only reason that Cancer Research UK don't put that on the website is they happen to receive a lot of money from the dairy industry. So...
You know, what do you think about I saw that documentary made by
The
actually
Game
a friend of mine.
Changers.
No, a different one called Voyage to Betterment. It talked about the same thing you mentioned.
Ooh.
Cancer in China was starting to spread, correlated with consumption of meat, apparently.
The correlation between the Western diet in China and their rates of diabetes and cancer,
right?
Amazing, because traditionally the Chinese diet or the Asian diet has been very lots of soy, lots of grains, lots of very, very little meat, You know, up until maybe 50, 60 years ago, the prevalence of breast cancer and diabetes and things like that in those cultures was very, very rare. And now it's incredibly common.
What about plants and stuff? Because that documentary by my friend, I haven't mentioned this on a podcast before, but I think it's so radical, the idea. So basically there was an experiment when there was two plants in the room. And one of the people, there was four people in the experiment, and one person got a small piece of paper that said, uproot a plant, hide it somewhere in the room, and leave the room. And other people were instructed, enter the room, do nothing, leave the room. And then this guy was a CIA guy, right? And so he was measuring the plants. He was measuring somehow their field or whatever. It's possible to measure some kind of frequency coming out. And would you know that the plants, after the whole ordeal, 4 people come in and one uprooting the plant, and then they proceeded to come into the room again, one by one. And would you know that the plant reacted to the person that was guilty? The plant reacted. So I'm thinking, like, from this experiment, if this is true, I'm not taking it on faith, but if this is true, then even like plants have a life, and so they react as well. But so that's, I think, I'm not gonna go into discussion, but to me, just like, it's still life.
It is life, and it's absolutely it's the plant thing is, yes, plants are receptive to certain stimuli, and they may recognize the person who came in and not recognize it in the way that we do, but react to it. Because if the other person, I don't know, they may have, if they prune a plant and a certain amount of something from inside the plant sprays out that we can't see and goes on that person, and the plant detects it. Plants detect things, very much similar to the way that a phone will react to another phone and communicate with another phone. Now, my phone, if I touch it, it will do something. That doesn't mean that phone is alive and has a brain. It just means that it is receptive to certain stimuli, as plants are. plants don't have brains and they're not sentient. So they don't have a brain. Very often similar to the people that use that plants have feelings argument. They don't have a brain. They are receptive to certain things, but they don't think. They're not conscious. They're not sentient. However, if we are saying that plants have a life and it's not right that we take a plant's life, about 90% of the plants that we grow are given to the animals that we eat. So if we stopped eating animals, guess what? We're killing less plants. So if you care about plants, stop eating animals.
No way.
If you care about animals, stop eating animals.
Hold on, but then we have to eat something, so we eat more plants.
Yep. Yes, we do have to eat something, and we will eat more plants. But unless we want to die by eating nothing. However, the best course of action if we care about plants is stop eating animals, because we feed animals just considerably more plants than we would feed ourselves. So by not eating animals and animal products, guess what? We're freeing up more land space, like 10 times the amount of land space that it takes to feed a meat eater. We free up so much. We would free up about 75% of the world's currently used land mass for animals. We would not be chopping down the Amazon to grow soy, which, by the way, 90% of the soy grown on the Amazon is fed to animals. It's not fed to vegans. Trust me.
All right. Switching gears a little bit, talking about dying. You ever made a short movie where you died? I think that's as roles, to me, that's like simply the lowest of the low. You're in something and then you're like, ugh, and then you die. I mean, it is something. I mean, even Sylvester Stallone started with a small role where he was a punk and I don't know, beat somebody up as part of a gang, that was, I think, his first small role. So yeah. So, but I think you have a philosophy on taking role. What's your philosophy on taking roles?
Taking roles?
Yes.
When I look at a role, because I will still accept student films if I look at, okay, who are the people that are producing it? What have they done anything before? What's the quality of their work? Now, right. Because some people say I won't do a student film, and I look at it and go, well, what's the quality of their previous work and where are they? If it's their final year of their dissertation and they can show you something that they've done that you go, do you know what, that was pretty good camera work and the sound was good. Even if you didn't particularly like the script or the story, if the production was good enough that you go, okay, this one's going to be better than that. So the production has to be good. And is that role that you're potentially taking going to benefit you? Is it going to go on your show reel, even if it's just 10, 20, 30 seconds or something? Is there something there for your show reel that you do not currently have? And and the overall picture, because you need to look at what it's going to do for you from a personal, show reel perspective. But overall, everything that is filmed with you in it is going to go out on the internet at some stage, and it is out there. Yes, yeah. So you better not do. Are you pornography? Happy? Are you? I never. Do you know what? I never did plumb in that washing machine. If you, I've never. The number of beautiful women out there with unfixed washing machines and blocked pools and drains is unbelievable. I just show up and but sometimes it's the pizza guy. But okay, let's not talk about that. Sometimes it is the pizza guy. Yeah. But whatever role you take, are you happy for that to be out there forever? Now, I've never done anything that I've looked at and I've done stuff where I've looked at and gone, yeah, there's nothing from that. I was a coach for a boxer in some short thing, and they sent me the stuff in the end and I didn't use any of it. And it wasn't because I gave a bad performance or whatever. There was nothing in there. that I could use on a show reel. Whereas
Right.
I did something else for some university students that was filmed over a course of about 5 days in a restaurant, and it was great, and it went straight on my show reel, and everything about it, the camera angles, the sound, and it was so good that it actually went on one of my co-stars, Andrew, can't remember his surname, but it went on my co-star's show reel, and he is now a regular character on Emmerdale. And
I don't know, the show is
Emmerdale is used to be called Emmerdale Farm. It's now called Emmerdale. You know, it's on a par with Coronation Street and EastEnders.
okay. Wow.
The three big soaps: Coronation Street, EastEnders, and Emmerdale, pretty much. And he's a regular on Emmerdale.
Wow.
And he was my co-star in that little production. But it was produced so well. And then I've done other things that are adverts where I've had to do loads of narration. Absolutely fine with that. And little short films when I was first starting out, because I was like, okay, if your character in a proposed role that you're looking at, if there's something in the character that you haven't done in your current show reel, then that's when I would look and go, okay, I haven't done a role where I have been sensitive and crying, or I haven't done a role where I've been really aggressive and violent. You know, if there's something there that you don't have on your show reel, then go, okay, that's worth considering. You don't have to have every single emotion possible on your show reel,
Right.
but if you want to show versatility, then that's one of the things that you consider. Is there something in that character? Is that character going to be doing or saying something in a manner that I don't currently have on my show reel? Unless you're lucky and you can just do the same, you can be the same character through the rest of your acting life, like Sean Bean, Danny Dyer, the guy for Nicolas Cage. Basically, they're pretty much the same character in every single thing that they do. We know that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like they're playing themselves, but actually, I think still that it requires skill what they do, because not everybody can do what they do, and they become so professional at
they've specialized in being basically one. I mean, you're never going to see Nicolas Cage in 12th Night or something. It's just not going to. You know, it's not going to happen.
We can put him in a comedy, though. I'd like to see Nick Cage in a comedy. Like he's
you could put him in a comedy, but what is he going to do? He's going to be zany, crazy, wide-eyed Nicolas Cage,
or
which we've all seen before. The best actors are the ones that you forget. They're the best ones.
But Nicolas Cage has this. He can have a charm. He can be like, you know, there was a movie called Gone in 60 Seconds, and there's a scene and there's an actor, I forget his name, Robert Duvall. Yeah, actually he's a better actor, but he has a side role, and he's standing around and everybody's standing around waiting for Nick Cage, and Nick Cage is like, okay, let's go. Like that was all. That was a scene, and everybody's like waiting around, music's playing. But it seemed like to me, Nick Cage, I don't know, I think he was like perfect for that role. Like some actors are, for certain roles, are just like, yeah, even though they're not the best actor, but for that role, they're just like perfect, you know.
So I mean, that's the thing about casting as well. The jobs that you don't get, you weren't meant to get, and there's so much outside of your control. You can get a set of twins that go in for the same role. They're both absolutely identical, except from one of them will have a mole or his hair is parted on the other side, and he will get that role. Because in the casting director's mind, or the director's mind, or whoever gets the final decision, in their mind, that's the person that is in their mind. And there's so much outside of your control. Literally, just roles will go to people where the casting says blonde hair. You see the finished product and the person's got dark hair, and you go, well, hang on a minute. And it's like, because the person's changed their mind and just gone, oh, no, I like that. And they just change it like that.
Right.
You didn't get the role because there's so much. You go in, you do your audition, you give it your best, and then you leave, and you just go, might get it, might not. I've had auditions where I've just gone, that was amazing. I'm really in with the shout. didn't hear anything. I've had other stuff I've gone out and just gone, yeah, that felt quite good. And I ended up, getting it. I had a car advert commercial, and I swear the only reason that I got it wasn't because I was the best actor in the room or the best look at or whatever. It was because they needed another male for the following audition, and the male that was meant to be in it didn't turn up. And I turned around and just said, well, look, I got the rest of the day off. Do you need me to step in and do this one as well? And because I was helpful and stepped in and did that, they probably just thought, that's the type of person that I want to work with.
Right.
Which goes back to the concept of don't be a dick. Just be nice to work with.
Yeah.
And you will get work.
Since you mentioned that, Kevin Spacey comes to mind. There was a lot of, after he got ousted from Hollywood, that he was actually upset that he was insufferable and all that. But it's amazing that he was working for years. He was a A-list actor for years and years and years, even though he was, by all accounts, not a nice person at all. And I'm not sure he's Hollywood. There's probably other actors, and probably not well-known ones as well, that are difficult to work with and so all that. But it's not always about this person being really bad. It's also sometimes different personalities in the way actors work, and sometimes they're moody and all that. So you get anyway, maybe it's like every other job, except this one is a lot more glamorous, isn't it?
It is. When you get the, I remember I did this role. It was for McLaren.
Wow.
And it was weird because it was like one day I was doing my survival job. I can't remember what it was at the time, probably working in the call center or something. One day I'm working in the call center, and the next day I'm dressed in full McLaren kit, which they let me keep, at the McLaren headquarters in a tunnel with literally probably about £100 million worth of various Formula One cars and a gold McLaren F1, the original, just literally it's a half-mile long tunnel full of these cars. And I'm talking to, and I'm doing this with a very young driver who's now the teammate of, not Jenson Button, who's the current Formula One world champion.
Lewis?
Lewis Hamilton. So his current co-driver now, or the guy who's just about to join him, can't remember his name. I'm doing this thing with him, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm here at McLaren F1 for 2 days, getting paid like I think it was £1,500 for 2 days' work to pretend to be a Formula One engineer, and I'm like, this is incredible. Just especially 10 years ago, I was working in factories or selling mobile phones or doing some crap like that, and it's like, wow,
that's amazing. But also, there's something to be said about, I really love actors that are like down to earth. I really like personalities. Like a typical example would be Keanu Reeves or Chris Pratt, or people that are still grounded. They're not like out there. Even though Chris Pratt did marry I think the daughter of Schwarzenegger, but still he's kind of remained kind of grounded and kind of like, if you went for a drink with him, he'd just be a regular guy. He wouldn't be like, I was gonna mention Tom Cruise. He's an excellent actor, but I don't know how well he'd, hang out with him, because he seems to be very much focused on that. But also this about glamour as well. I don't know. It's like some people just look at you like you're nothing if you're not somebody.
It depends. Well, that's society as a whole, isn't it? I mean, that's the whole.
That's true, right.
Let's face it. Look at Instagram. What does everyone want to be? An influencer.
Yes.
I want to get loads of stuff for free and travel around the world. And we know full well Instagram and social media, especially for young people, has just made their lives a hell of a lot worse, because you're just constantly comparing your life to somebody else. You're constantly comparing your body to somebody else. And the comparison is, but Instagram, Facebook, and all of those social media, they're the highlights. That's the edited reel. Now, the thing that I do with the stuff that I post on YouTube and Facebook and the stuff that I talk about is completely real. I don't cover up the fact that this journey is not easy, and you might be working. I remember once I worked, I did 4 different jobs in a 2-day period, and completely overslept for one of them because I was so physically exhausted. And it's like, do you know what? I was working until from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m, and then I went and did something from 7 o'clock until 10 o'clock, and then I did something from 10:30 till 3 a.m, and then I got up the next day and went back to work from 9 till 5, and then I overslept for the following job. And it's like, you can be working back to back. When I first was retraining, I'm in a very good position now, fortunately, but when I first started out and I was renting a room from a little old lady, a room the size of your average wardrobe, and my dinner I've run out of fuel and had to fill up my car at the petrol station, knowing full well I did not have the money to pay for it. My dinner would be like, before I was vegan, it would be like a pint of milk and a bunch of bananas or something or other.
Right.
But I would post all of that and just go, if this is what you want to do, to get that end result, the glamour and all of that, this is the shit that you have to do first. And are you prepared to do that? I had no social life or love life for years. I mean, I still don't really have a massive social life, and I'm still single. Because if you determine what you want to do, it's like, no, you when everybody else is partying and spending their money and going out to nightclubs and whatever, and you're on your second or third job for the day. You're
hustling away.
Yep.
Would you say for an actor it's very important to keep working versus taking acting classes? I think maybe some actors learn a lot more on the job than they do in acting classes, but maybe like Morgan Freeman is a typical example. He said he learned most of the things he learned on the jobs. But the trick is to get a job. Obviously, you have to audition. So it's like in a way, catch-22. You have to get in.
It's catch-22. You have to do both. I mean, I know I was for a short period, I was dating a wannabe actress, and I don't say that in a detrimental tone. I just mean literally, she was having acting classes, but she hadn't acted in anything. And when I was having acting classes, I was like, yeah, just go and do a student thing. If it's not being paid, then if you're not being paid for it, it doesn't matter if you fuck up. It really doesn't matter, because you're not getting paid for it, or if you're getting paid not a lot. And that doesn't mean just turn up and just not have any fucking clue what you're doing, but do acting classes, but go out and acting stuff. And the actress that I was, or the actress in training that I was dating briefly, she would not go and acting anything because she was never ready. She never felt ready.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you have to go and just act in something and get your lines wrong and fuck up. And because you can't learn how to get your mindset back in an acting class. And you can't really learn about camera acts, and a lot of acting is to do with your relationship with the person that you're in the scene with, and the sound guy and the camera guy, and where people are going to be. And you have to, simple things like, well, I need to be here at this point at this line. Okay, so now I have to do my lines while walking backwards, so I know where I need to start from. And very often you'll be going through a scene and talking or doing whatever you have to do. There are cables that you can't see in shot. There are things that you have to negotiate and be aware of that you're not going to learn that in acting class.
So you're not much on technique. Like there's some people, their methods, some people that I don't know. There's many different schools of that. In the end, what matters, I think, for me, like cutting all the BS if you can act, like whatever you do, the important thing is that the audience gets it. It's not about you, or if you internalize it or not, or all that discussion. What's important is if you can perform, you know.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it, but the thing about acting is never be caught doing it. You never want an audience. If you're watching somebody in something and you're going, oh my God, like they acted that really well, or you're conscious of them. If you're thinking about how well they're acting a scene, they're not acting it well enough. Because if you watch a movie with great actors, you never consciously think about their acting. You're so absorbed in the character, so absorbed in what they're doing and what's going on in the scene, and how is this guy reacting to this guy or this girl, and what's blah, 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 blah. You never think about the acting because it's that good. You're not aware that they're actually acting. You just completely forget that they're acting. You need to find a method that works for you, and you need to learn how to do things like break. You've got the who, what, where, when, why, which is like, who is your character? Who are they? When is it? What period of history? What time of the day? And where are they? What's their motive? Why are they saying that thing? What do they want to get from this other person? All of these things, though, you do need to find a method and something that works for you. One method that works for one person won't work for another. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Nikki Flack's Acting with Passion, because she talks about every single role comes from an emotion that you will have experienced at some time in your life. So if you can put your body in a certain state to bring around that emotion will come across in the scene. So it's working from a place of internal. I don't like foraging through my past memories of my dog dying to then, make myself upset, because if you're upset in a scene that you're doing because of something that happened in your real life, then you are not in that scene. You're disconnected from the scene. So, and the more you use your own personal memories and history to bring about emotion, you desensitize yourself. It's similar to people who are scared of spiders. If you constantly see a spider on your computer every single day, eventually you're no longer scared of spiders. I don't want to take my own personal emotions and use that for something, because then that changes the way that I feel about my personal experiences. So you find a method that works for you and go with that.
Right. I mean, I think some actually methods are dangerous. I think I have a theory that Heath Ledger's kind of method approach, because he wasn't initially a method actor, but I think he really kind of approached it in an almost method way, and playing an evil character. I think that's definitely detrimental to mental health. Like, I don't know, there's an actor that played Patton called George C. Scott. I don't know if you know him, but he was saying, because he had a method, he was using a method, but he said that each role that you do leaves a certain emotional baggage that's kind of unresolved. Like, I'm paraphrasing. And with each movie it gets bigger. So it seemed like actually it wasn't healthy. But what people like Tom Cruise are doing is something completely different. I don't think he's using much of his personal. I don't know how, but he's somehow, if like, that's why I said, if like, different things work for different actors, but if you're doing something that's unhealthy, like, I don't know, Daniel Day-Lewis
for your mental health and everything.
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis, severe method style, but I think that's why he retired. Yeah, like, it's hard to keep that up because it's like takes a toll on you, I think.
Oh, when he was playing Abraham Lincoln, he just stayed in character for the whole damn thing, and it's like, oh my God, how you go? And I remember hearing something about how he learned how to be a cobbler or a shoemaker. He did something in Italy, or maybe it was a butcher, but he did something in Italy, and he did it for like 2 or 3 years. He really, really learned the craft for the role. And it reminds me of the film Marathon Man, where you've got a very, very young Dustin Hoffman and oh, my stupid brain. Laurence Olivier.
All right.
I think it was Laurence Olivier and Dustin Hoffman in Marathon Man, and Dustin Hoffman's character was basically, he was like a runner, and he, in the scene, he was exhausted and he hadn't slept all night and this, that, and the other. Dustin Hoffman did all of these things, and he stayed awake for like 2 or 3 days on the trot, and he got himself really got himself into the character. And then Laurence Olivier said, "Darling, have you ever thought of just acting?" And it's like, you don't have to physically do the thing that your character's doing to pretend to be that character. It's like, as long as you can, access that emotion. I did something for Channel 4 where they said, "Look, we need you to be upset," and the crux of it was they wanted me to cry, and I said, "Okay, well, ask me some questions about when I first got divorced and I left my ex-wife and how I felt about leaving the children." And to a certain extent, that was using my own memories.
Yeah.
That was just like a very little, but I could do that. And I did that scene, and I was really crying, and it was ugly crying. It wasn't Hollywood crying. It was ugly crying, snot dripping down, really. And they couldn't use it. The guy kept on indicating, without saying it, he kept on indicating to wipe my nose. Well, I didn't know what the hell he meant because I was so emotionally charged. But when I finished the scene, that people watching the monitor were really concerned, and they were, "Are you okay? Do you need to, like, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was fun." And they're like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, fine." It was just do it and then switch off and go, "It's fine." It's like, I can cry just like that. It's like, fine.
Right.
But being able to access those emotions but being able to switch it off, that's the key. Switch it off, especially if it's negatively charged.
Let's talk a little bit, and I'd love to talk more about this, but actually we're running out of time a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about stand-up, because stand-up is something that's so intimidating. There's so many people, but I think when you get on stage and if you get a laugh and all that, it's addicting, and it's like, oh, you love it. You love to see it, like somebody just crushing the crowd. I remember being at a stand-up thing, and there was a guy that was like, later he told me that 98% of stuff he throws away. And he had a joke I still remember to this day, and I just remember this was in Glasgow, and he got everybody laughing so much. He was talking about sex a lot, and he said, "Yeah, last year they asked me to talk at a sex conference, but I pulled out at the last minute." It's jokes like that. It was like he was killing it. I was like, whoa! But that actually, a lot of writing comedy is throwing stuff away, isn't it?
Oh yeah. You get ideas in your head. You see stuff, and it's what tends to happen is the only difference between somebody who does comedy and somebody who doesn't do comedy is the fact that we write our thoughts down, because everyone thinks things, everyone sees things and has a thought like, "Well, that's a bit weird," or "Why is that like that?" or whatever. And then you just let it go. We'll write that down. I still write notes. I haven't done comedy for the last couple of years because of the pandemic and various other things, but I still write things down, constantly writing things down. I currently have one of my ears is blocked with wax. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, what do you do if your ear is blocked up with wax? And then as I was thinking, what do you do if your ear is blocked up with wax? And instantly I'm just like, oh, probably stop sticking candles up there, because my mind goes, what do you do if your rear is blocked up with wax? So immediately I go for the comedic answer of stop sticking candles up your ass, kind of thing. But you just, and it's just, so I've got a little note, and it says, wax blocking your ear, stop shoving candles up there. And then underneath I've got co-op radio quiz, because I was in a co-op yesterday, and they had one of these shop DJs, and he was doing a quiz. So he was doing a quiz over the radio in the shop. And I'm thinking, who the fuck is standing around for an hour doing a quiz in the co-op? Like, you just, what? All you're going to get is people going in throughout that quiz, hearing the question, wondering what the answer is, going back out to their car and driving off, never knowing what the answer to that fucking question was. Now, what? Whose idea was that? So I just written down co-op radio quiz. And it'd probably come to absolutely nothing. But
it's observational comedy, which sometimes is the best. Like, people just like, observing things in life and comparing to something, or just making it like, who thought of this? Like, whose idea was this? Like, who thought this was, this was great.
Who did the same thing? I used to do a thing about wallpapering because it was exactly the same thing. I was like, when I first moved in with my ex-wife and we were wallpapering, I was saying to her, whose fucking idea was this? Like, cover the walls with strips of paper that you have to glue the fucking wall and glue the paper and then put the paper up and then line it up and then hope it doesn't fucking fall down. Like, whose fucking idea was that? Let's stick paper on the fucking wall. It's a ridiculous idea. Centuries later, we're still fucking doing it.
Yeah, well, sometimes it looks cool. I remember in my childhood, I had a really cool like river flowing somewhere. I don't know where. I would love to know, but I love that picture. But it was like nature, though. It wasn't like, weird, corny stuff from the 70s. It was, maybe, I don't know. Like, it's actually, humanity does a lot of things that are really weird. And so if you if you juxtapose things in the right way, and I think also sense of humor is healthy. A lot of comedians live a long time, unless they're really fat. But
again, though, I mean, there's a lot of prevalence of mental health issues in comedy. The hardest thing that I found with comedy was I was doing it, 2 or 3 nights a week, and you're always working when everybody else is having a good time. And then you go back to your hotel room, probably after hanging out with the other comedians and drinking. You go back to your hotel room and probably drink some more and watch some porn. And then the next day you get up and you go back home and everyone else is back doing their normal job, and you spend a lot of time on your own. And if you're doing it alongside your day job, which I was, you would have your day job. So you'd work all day, and then in the evening you go out and you do stand up, and it's a great scene. It's a brilliant scene, but you spend so much time working and then doing your stand up that you don't have a social life for a lot of the time. You spend a lot of time. It can be very bad, very tough on your mental health.
Right. So you need to balance it with having something grounding in your life, or maybe friends that can keep you grounded or something like that. I think friends are extremely important.
Yeah. There's a very big prevalence of loneliness in London, especially with men as well. You get a lot of people who, for whatever reason, they're living on their own. A divorce or relationship breakup is a very common thing, and because of the way that a lot of jobs work, especially now with the pandemic, people working from home, a lot of people spend a lot of time on their own, and it can be very difficult for a lot of men to go out and make friends, which is that's where the comedy scene is very good, because comedians are very, very supportive of each other.
Yes.
On the whole, you'll always get some dickheads. There will always be some assholes, but generally comedians want to see other comedians do well.
It's a great community. Good. It's a great community.
It's brilliant. And if anyone's ever sort of considered doing it, I'm like, just find an open mic night and just talk to the MC afterwards and talk to some comedians and say, how do I get in? Because every comedian's like, yeah, man, you want to do it? Seriously, do it. Even if you only do 5 minutes once, die in your ass, never do it again. Just
that's something I actually want to do, because I've taken the class, but class is hard because I was just performing in front of 5 people that were already in class, and they're thinking about their own material and how they're gonna in class, and it's hard. That's a small crowd, playing to a small crowd, especially people that are in the class. I had no idea if material was any good, but the teacher was kind, and he would kind of be very libertine with laughing and all that, which is helpful, that he's like good sport. But it was tough,
but doing stand-up in front of 5 other people who are also doing stand-up, that is a very standard London open mic night. That's very standard. The number of times you turn up and you go, oh, there's no one here but other comedians. And you're literally, and the other thing about other comedians is they don't laugh at other comedians' jokes because they're constantly thinking about how they would have said it and how they would have made it better. And whatever. You might,
Yes.
if you get if you can get a laugh from a comedian, that's when you know it's a good joke.
Right.
That's when you know it's a good joke. If another comedian, you see them physically laughing, you go, that's a good joke.
Yeah,
because
it
they're
works.
not thinking of it. But if they're not laughing, it's not necessarily because it's not funny. It will be because they're thinking about either their set, or they're thinking about how they would have said your bit, or how similar it is to theirs, and then they're like, fuck, I can't use that bit now because they've said it, and I'm
Mm. So, Adam, how can people contact you
mm.
if they want coaching, or if they want acting
Oh,
services or gig?
I am literally, I'm everywhere. The life coaching, the life coaching side, the life coaching YouTube channel and Facebook page are all Absolution Coaching. So the life coaching is absolutioncoaching.co.uk, and then the YouTube channel and the Facebook page are Absolution Coaching. Everything else, I'm on Instagram as Absolution Coaching as well. And I'm also on Instagram as Adam Making It Happen with one M. So it's Adam Making It Happen.
All right.
And then I've got
I'll
my personal pages, but it depends if you're, if you're cute or funny,
all
whether
right.
whether you get access to those or not.
Right. I'll put the links in and that you give me in the description. And I want to thank you so much, Adam. Adam
Oh,
Broomfield-Strawn, everybody.
pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
And I want to thank everybody for listening and watching the podcast.